Hey, this is Mike, and I'm with
Charles Woods.
Long time no see. You've been asking and begging and begging. I made a special trip to New York City so that we could be together to do this. We talked about this for a little while, and we found ourselves in the middle of Harlem at this beautiful new restaurant, Arta Grill, on 135th and Adam Clayton Powell.
Yes.
Right?
Right around the corner from Harlem's YMCA, not far from the Schomburg Library. And this, you know, you talk about soul food is in an area. Come here. Somalian food that's
Somalian, black owned, $7.99 a pound. Awesome food, and I guess I don't know if it's a good sign or a bad sign. The Popeyes across the street is done.
Wait, come get some quality food, some different food. They're gonna start a breakfast menu. Not they're just open week old, but they're doing fantastic, and they're even gonna do greater. But the people here, along with the good food, they're beautiful people.
Yes. All right. So we are here to share with you some our review of this. I guess it's a little known, little seen film called The Klansman. You know, I've been aware of it for quite some time, but it has just been officially released on Blu-ray from our friends at Olive Films.
Richard Burton as Brett, one man against the Klan, daring to start something. Lee Marvin as Track, the sheriff, and the only man who could stop it.
I'm just a backcountry sheriff. Up for re-election every year. There are two kinds of law open to a backcountry sheriff. He can book and punish, or he can cool things, smooth them out by bending the law a little to keep people from breaking.
This film has fallen into public domain, and if you go to the online sources to watch this film, you won't see it all. It's been chopped to pieces, and what you're seeing is a bad TV print. And I excoriated the producer of this film, William Alexander, some time ago because I didn't like the way Lola Falana's character was humiliated in this film.
Right. Well, before we jump into that, let's give a little backstory on this. Well, the synopsis of the plot, basically, it is adapted from a novel from 1967 by William Bradford Huey, who also wrote a lot of other novels that ignited some things. It's basically sort of like a 60s William Faulkner, Southern writer. All of his stories take place in the South, with the exception of the execution of Private Slovic and the Americanization of Emily, which is the movie that kind of put him on the map in terms of that. But he's a Renaissance man, and a lot of his films have been turned into, a lot of his books have been turned into feature films, and The Klansman was one of those.
Yeah, The Klansman, it's interesting on a number of levels. Klansman had a moderate success as a novel, and the time was right where they felt maybe we could exploit the interest in blaxploitation. And what was unique about it, it was the major debut of a guy by the name of O.J. Simpson.
Yeah, so it stars Lee Marvin and Richard Burton, and Lola Falana and Linda Evans. So, I have not read the original book, but they did take some liberties, and this was a very troubled production. So, I think, and we can talk about the subversive nature of the film. I think that what was intended and what actually came out are two different things. But basically, the original screenplay was written by Sam Fuller, who was sort of like the pulp. He did Big Red 1 for those, and then another film that came out later called White Dog, which dealt with racism and stuff. But he's one of my favorite filmmakers. He's considered a maverick in the Hollywood industry and a well-known independent filmmaker. And he was originally attached to the script, and that's what got Lee Marvin on. Lee Marvin plays the sheriff of a small southern town, and Richard Burton is a newly arrived landowner, and Lee Marvin may or may not be directly involved with the KKK, but he's definitely entrenched in their behavior. He's a law and order guy, but I mean, from the very opening scene, it's definitely going to be provocative.
Larry Williams, whose bio says he's basically a songwriter, but he's playing a character, a big, oversized, not too bright character by the name of Lightning Rod, and they're going to give him $1 to rape this black woman, and the black woman was played by Jeannie Bell. Jeannie Bell, who went on to play most famously TNT Jackson.
This property is posted. You boys are trespassing.
And so he's attempting to rape Jeannie Bell's character, all for the sport of some rednecks who just think this is fun. You know, like, oh, they don't mind it. You know, black women were made for this kind of stuff. And she's stripped of a blouse from the top, and he's getting ready to pull her panties off. And Lee Marvin, who has somewhat of a conscience, you know, he's someone in more ways than one, he's going along to get along because he's in that environment. You know, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. But you can see he's not totally a racist redneck. He's got some kind of a conscience.
How'd you figure out where we was, anyhow?
Well, Lightning Rod's mama saw you fetch him, and she figured what was spring in the air. All right, boys, party's over. Rod. Oh, Rod. Here's your $1. Go on, take it.
Rape comes into play 2 more times in the film because the inciting incident in the film is a white woman who, played by Linda Evans, is raped. And 2 black people are accused. So, and O.J. Simpson is one of them. And they catch one of the guys, they go in a pool hall, one of the most, you know, I don't know, it's out of Starsky and Hutch.
It looks like Lightning Rod, they got him all excited. He couldn't complete the act with Jeannie Bell. And this white couple, they get stuck in their car. And the white man leaves Linda Evans, his wife, in the car. She doesn't want to move. She's tired. And then she's pulled out the car and she's raped by a black man who is probably Lightning Rod. Soon as they say a white woman's been raped, black men are in trouble. So what happens is the first person they think of is a character by the name of Willie Washington. He's like the town's black lover man. Lee Marvin goes to the bar to find out if Willie can account for his whereabouts around the time of Linda Evans' rape. He doesn't want to say where he's been. So Lee Marvin said, well, come on with me. OJ and his friend, Henry, they're in the bar, and they want to go out to see what's going to happen with Willie. And then that's when when they take to the road, and while they're walking on the road, some of the rednecks who are all up in arms, they pass OJ and Henry, and they start throwing things at him. He throws something back at the rednecks, and they get upset.
They take OJ and this other guy out in the woods, and they literally castrate and murder one of them. OJ gets away, and because it's 1974, he becomes a vigilante. Peppered throughout the movie at very random spots, OJ shows up with a rifle and starts killing white people.
Well, OJ ain't nobody to take anything in this film. I have a thing coming up we're going to do. It's called Bad Ends in Motion Pictures. And one of the baddest ends in the motion picture is OJ's character in this film, Garth. He plays Garth.
There's a little race riot bubbling up within the town, and there's also all sorts of soap operas. So Lola Falana, she's back. She's newly back. And originally, the way I understand Sam Fuller conceived the role was going to be more like a Angela Davis type Black Power kind of character. Lola Falana actually is kind of a bedwench in this movie. She's got a secret relationship with...
I don't want to give away too much, but here's the thing. There's tricknology in this film because one of the things I would point out to Mike, I did my 3Ds. And one of the rumors that was circulating in the town was that Richard Burton's character had an affair with Lola Falana's character. Okay? And actually, it was quite paternal, where he wanted to help Lola's character. But you don't know this. This is what's circling. But the first thing that, when I saw this film, the first thing that came to my mind was the limp.
Yes.
Richard Burton's character has a noticeable limp. It was a war wound. That's part of my 3Ds. It's the denigration process.
3D definitely in effect there, and you know, he's got a young wife, and there's like, you know, is oh wait, I thought Linda.
No.
They're just sleeping together.
No. Actually, along with Richard Burton's being miscast, some English guy supposed to be a Southerner, and he couldn't even keep his Southern accent. That kept going haywire, and there are reasons for that, among others. But the thing is, what's interesting is you first see him in bed with an actress by the name of Luciana Paluzzi. Yeah, Luciana Paluzzi is someone, if you remember Black Gun, she's the actress who came on the Black Gun, and Black Gun is played by Jim Brown. He turns it down, and she says, when she looks at Brenda Sykes, she said, "Oh, I can see why you're turning me down." But Luciana Paluzzi is the girlfriend of Richard Burton, and she plays a character by the name of Trixie. And there's an interesting line. They're in bed together, and I'm quite sure it wasn't intentional. Maybe it was, with Sam Fuller having a little fun. But there's a line where she said, "Why won't you marry me? I light your pipe, and I do other things for you."
Just keep driving.
Hey, what are you trying to do?
Kick some asses, baby.
What's the point of busting up a peaceful meeting?
What good's a peaceful meeting? It's for them bourgeois Negroes. When you gonna learn anyway that all that marching gonna get you is what you got screwed?
And don't you know you gotta keep violence out of the movement?
You know, if I was a honky, I'd want niggas to all be just like you, do nothings. Always marching them dumbass marches and mouthing them dumbass slogans. Ain't that right, boy? Hey, boy, I'm talking to you.
For William Alexander, who has a rich history in black film, he became the first black producer to have a film budget in excess of $4 million. It was close to $5 million, 4.5 to $5 million. And so he, as one of the producers, along with the other producers, they said, let's make this film. But the thing is, when Sam Fuller turned in his screenplay, it was too problematic, and they didn't want to deal with it. But they kept most of it. They made some changes. Sam Fuller, who was not only did part of the screenplay, he was also supposed to direct the film. But he just didn't like where they wanted to go with the film, how they wanted to make changes to his screenplay, and he begged out, and it was taken over by Terrence Young.
Well, the story is that Paramount Pictures had foreign investors, and they wanted Terrence Young, who did On Her Majesty's Secret Service and another Reflections of no, that wasn't. I have the wrong other film. British director, to do this movie about white racism or Southern racism, and they said the Italian financiers wanted Terrence Young, so Sam Fuller left. He wanted his name taken off of it, but there are certainly some moments in the movie that it's clearly Sam Fuller's writing and dialogue.
This republic is great, not because of our land, our wealth, or our population. We are great because of the genius of pioneer white freemen who settled this continent, dared the might of kings, and made the wilderness a home of freedom. Our future depends on the purity of this racial stock. Granting the ballot to Negroes is a crime against human progress. Trash.
I do want to talk about the subversive nature of the film. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. Like, this movie, on a scale of 1 to 5, it's like a 2, 2.5 for me at most. But there's some things in this movie that are quite daring, even for the time. And there are a couple great speeches in terms of dealing with white racism and the whole economic power structure that exists within a small southern town, why they have to keep black people under as much.
Track, you're the best sheriff this county ever had. But you don't know any more about business than a hog knows about Sunday. The growth and well-being of this county depends on business.
But what's that got to do with Nancy Poteet?
It's got to do with race relations.
Well, everything does.
You're rocking the boat, you know. We got this conflict. Now the blacks are moving north. They're going to Chicago. They're joining the army so they can get a $1,500 bonus. Then they can go to Germany for 2 years and just wallow in that crouch snatch and become ski instructors. And what happens to me? I got to replace them with whites. But no self-respecting white will do grunt labor for what I pay the niggers.
What killed this film is the fact that there was too much of an attempt to be politically correct. The politics of racism would be so horrendous that the audience in the 70s was not ready to deal with that. So therefore, you had to have a character like O.J.'s Garth to be that cathartic figure who's going around shooting down Klansmen. And as he tells one of them, I'm your executioner. That was something that was unique. But the thing is, the dialogue in this film, is a dialogue that we're hearing in today's world. And if people pay attention to dialogue and hear what's going on, you hear that, you know, they talk about Christian love and all this kind of stuff. Well, if we talk about slavery we can attribute to being something that the church sponsored, slavery, if you want to go back in the history. And when we talk about the KKK is a Christian organization, okay? But there's a line in there where one of the characters, he pulls the book down, is the condition of the Negro. And he's saying, you know, if you get near a Negro and they touch you, you've been tainted. This kind of belief system of blacks is what fuels so many ignorant, racist people, and they believe in this stuff, and this is what fuels their anger and their venom.
And there's even this. Okay, yeah, now I remember. Yeah, so and Linda Evans, she's been black snaked, you know, to use a term that Lee Marvin uses, and she makes an attempt to go to the church, and holy hell breaks loose.
She's been raped, and since a black man touched her, there's a film, Barbara Stanwyck played in the film, and the same thing happened with her, where she was raped by Indians, and no one wants anything to do with her. In this film, the husband leaves, and so the tricknology is when Richard Burton shows her some affection, even offers to marry her. That is also the reason why they show him limping, because here's a white man who is not whole, who can show he can accept this black woman, this white woman who has been tainted by a black man.
I mean, but I think it's worth seeing just for those moments. You have to discount a lot. There is the one thing that upset me on first viewing was the way that they depict the rape of Linda Evans compared to the sexuality of the black folks.
Yeah, what I had excoriated William Alexander for is the same thing that upset me with what happened with Halle Berry and Monsters Ball, and have Lee Daniels at the helm. What we allow to happen to our black women. You see not one piece of flesh, white flesh, woman's flesh in this film. When the film first opens up, you see Jeannie Bell's breast exposed. And then the rape scene of Lola Falana is one of the most humiliating, just horrible film sequences in the history of film, and I hated that scene.
Yeah, so I mean, just on wrapping, and then also this is one from Paramount Pictures, who put out a lot of, I guess, I wouldn't say daring. They're very prolific in black entertainment in the 70s. They did Lady Sings the Blues. They put out Legend of Nigger Charlie.
Well, here's the thing with Paramount. Paramount, to its credit, they put a little more of a budget with their films. This film here, you look at the stars, Lee Marvin and Richard Burton. there are a lot of anecdotes to this. One quick anecdote. When Lola Falana came back after having filmed this movie, there was a rumor that she had an affair with Richard Burton. And I'll never forget, I was watching Johnny Carson's show, and she was on, and he said, what's this I hear about you and Richard Burton? She said, me and Richard Burton? Well, I went with that old man, and I'm making a movie with O.J. Simpson. That was not me, baby. It just so happened it was Jeannie Bell of TNT Jackson, who, if you read her bio, she helped get Richard Burton dry again, because he was a notorious drinker. He was killing himself with alcohol, and he smoked heavily smoked. She helped get him on the wagon. He went back to Elizabeth Taylor for a little while, but she had a brief affair with Richard Burton.
Yeah, there's in the Wikipedia on this is really interesting for more backstory. Yeah, but
there's another thing I want to say. One of the first black publicists assigned to a major studio was a gentleman by the name of Vincent Tubbs. When I went out to cover the making of Thank God It's Friday in California, who came and got us off the set but Vincent Tubbs, and he took us to meet my man, Sidney Poitier. But Vincent Tubbs was the publicist on this film.
So, you know, we're going to wrap it up. So, yeah, so this was a Paramount, and ironically, 74, the head of Paramount at the time was Frank Yablans. And a lot of these movies that were done this way, he was getting money off the front and the back end. So this could have been a tax write-off. He got accused of that later, like acquiring movies for the sake of getting money up front. So, also, ironically, one of the last films that he would greenlight would be Leadbelly, which is Gordon Parks' last feature film, and
never released.
Well, it made it to theaters.
Never released on DVD. And that could be a music thing. But one of the things I would say is for the people to look into the background of William Alexander. This was a low point in his career. He's someone who was the official filmmaker for Liberia and Ethiopia, award-winning filmmaker. But before he went to Africa in the 50s, he was someone who was making short films, and he worked with the OWI, the Office of War Information, and he did a lot of the films about the black soldiers and the black sailors.
Yeah, All American News, the very first black newsreel. So, a lot of film history here. If you are a collector and a completist, I know you're already excited about this, but you know, go see it. On a scale of 1 to 5, 2.5 for me. Where do you place it?
Well, you know what? I thank Olive Films for bringing it out, because as someone, you can't learn history if you can't see it. And it's a film that it has its place in history. I give it a 2.
Okay, all right. So we're in the same ballpark. And I guess, you know, well, you say bad ends. All right. So coming soon, when we sit down again, we're going to have to talk about. I know it's one of your favorites.
Which one's that?
Good Morning, Miss Wyckoff.
Oh, my goodness. I can't wait for people to see that film. But O.J.'s character in it.
Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff.
Good Luck, Miss Wyckoff. And you found me a screenplay. Yeah. But O.J.'s character in this was something, it was a cathartic release for the Black brothers. He was bad in this film, but it was just something where it was not enough of him, and the other scenes in the film kind of detract from what made blaxploitation so popular. This was not made to be a blaxploitation film, but to be a political film. It came out in the wrong era.
There's a black majority in this county. What's going to happen if they decide to run old Junior here for sheriff? Where'd you be then? Where'd you be with your gift house from the grateful county people? And your gift car, and your kid going to West Point? Got you where it hurts, don't I? And don't look at me like I'm the heavy, because I'm not. If you want to know who the heavy is, I'll tell you. It's the system.